Good friend of the show, longtime friend Sean Salisbury, and a show that debuts Super Bowl week on SB Nation Radio and ESPN Radio, host here in Houston. Good to see you, Sean.
Good to see you, bud. How are you?
Good. If you had a question to ask to Brady this week, what would you ask Brady? What are you curious about?
I think for me it would be, does he care about the legacy of being the GOAT? And number two is, Dan, and I believe in my mind that if he wins this game, you know how we talk about we talk about Lawrence Taylor, and there's maybe 3 or 4 linebackers we might compare to him. Anthony Munoz, 3 or 4 linemen. I'm talking about the best of all time. We talk about corners or safeties. When we talk about wide receiver, what name comes to your mind?
Jerry Rice.
And nobody else, correct?
Yep.
I think we're at the point, it's no longer a conversation for me, is it Tom or is it Joe Montana? To me, Tom Brady is the GOAT because he's done more with less than any player at that position we've ever had. Different guy. How many Hall of Famers are going to be offensive players that have played on the offense he's ever played with? 1, Randy Moss, and maybe Gronkowski if this continues. So if he wins this game, done more with less than any quarterback ever, is playing better now than he did 10 years ago, mechanics, Tom, we used to be able to backpedal faster than him. He actually can make some things happen and slide step and still make things go. And in that pocket, nobody better. Dan, I'm no longer just talking about is he the best quarterback of all time. He wins this. What I'd ask Tom is, do you think you're the best football player we've ever had?
What if he loses this game?
The questions are going to be, well, Joe went to 3, was the MVP, or 4, was the MVP in 3, never lost, doesn't throw the ball to the other team ever in those games. That winning percentage is perfect. Tom, why'd you lose 3? And then the response for me would be, Tom got to 7. And hey, by no means, Joe Montana, Dan, we know how special he is. We do. But
were you in the NFL when Montana?
Yes, I was. I was in that era of Kelly and Marino and Elway and Young and Montana. That's pretty good ones. There's 5 Hall of Famers right there and Favre, that group. But to watch, if he doesn't win this game, that's winning 4, losing 3, been to 7. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James talk. But getting to 7, Dan, come on. Remember when Marino went to 1? He thought he'd get back to 5 more.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get back. But to me, it won't tarnish his legacy. It just says he took teams that shouldn't have been there and got him there. But to get to 7, now you're talking about he's 1 more away from being winning 4, losing 4, because I don't believe he's done getting to him even after this year. I think there's more in his future. But it will not tarnish his legacy to lose this. All it can do in my mind is to enhance it and take him to a level that says now he's in the Jerry Rice category, Jim Brown category is the best we've ever seen, period.
I also look at the situation with the Patriots getting here without Gronkowski and wondering where they go in the future without Gronkowski.
Right.
I don't know what kind of trade value he would have if you just because Belichick always gets rid of you before it's too late.
Never missed out on that ever.
Yes. Now, can you seem like, and it feels like he's, a staple in the family there. Could you see a situation where Belichick would entertain trade talks for Gronkowski?
Yes. Can't you?
I can, because I think he's been inconsistently great for the Patriots.
Yes, and think about, Dan, there's no sacred cows in New England. Well, there's one,
Brady,
and he happens to be the quarterback. But we even heard the talk this year when Garoppolo was playing and just through 6 quarters of football. Maybe it's time for Tammy to go. Got to get out. Got to get rid of Tammy.
Do you think that they would ever entertain an idea to get rid of Brady?
Absolutely not. Garoppolo will be playing for somebody else in 2017, and Tom Brady will still be the quarterback and still be as good as we have in the league when he turns 40, during next football season. So do I think with Gronkowski, and Dan, remember when he went out, we all thought, what's going to happen now? But they haven't missed a beat. They have not missed a beat. Nobody does more with less. He takes guys like me and you in the slot, or tight end. Well, maybe not me, but because you're athletic.
Yeah, of course I am.
And he'll catch. Hogan's now a superstar. He's a star in this league.
Yeah.
And so I can foresee it because I can foresee a Texans team without J.J. Watt. You can go 2-14 with the greatest defensive player in the league. If Tom Brady goes to Cleveland or Aaron Rodgers goes to San Francisco, they're a minimum of a 500 team this past year. That's the difference. If a guy like J.J. Watt or Gronkowski goes to Cleveland or San Francisco, as great as they are, they can still go 3-13. So the value on the quarterback as opposed to somewhere else. And Tom, they'll find somebody else, but I don't think they want to move Gronkowski. The key is how much healthier, how does this keep happening? 9 games, 10 games?
Yeah.
He's such a special player, Gronk is. But as he's part of the family, but he can be a family somewhere else too.
Could you see a situation where J.J. Watt's not with the Texans?
Yes. Let me ask you this.
By the way, we're talking to Sean Salisbury.
If, say, somebody called up and said a team that needs a quarterback, let's just say Cleveland for fun. They got 2 number ones, first and the 12th pick, and said, we'll send you those 2, and we'll send you Terrell Pryor for what? I mean, it's not going to happen because they're going to draft a defensive end anyway. But if they did it, if you're the Houston Texans, as much as JJ is Houston, if you don't take that, then we ought to fire you and kick you out of the league, because you gotta have that. Then you draft a quarterback. If the Patriots called up them and said, "How about Garoppolo and our number 2 or 1 for JJ?" The experiment, I would draft a quarterback every year in every round, every year. If like in the 3rd round 1 year, 5th round the next, 7th round, 1st round, because eventually you're going to hit. But yes, I can see a scenario because his trade value is so high. And like I said, if you give me an Aaron Rodgers or give me if Garoppolo pans out, you're going to win. Look what happened to the Texans this year. As good as JJ is, he's out the whole year, and they won the division.
Well, I think the development of Clowney and
no question.
Whitney, the secondary,
makes him even more dispensable. And you're saying that about a 3-time defensive MVP and a Hall of Famer? Yeah, I can see a scenario. Matter of fact, I'll be now telling that to McNair family and the people in Houston because he's such a figure here. But if you want to make your team better, and we all know, look at the final 8 and the final 4 in the playoffs. What position must you have unless you have the aberration of the 2000 Ravens defense, the 85 Bears defense? You must have the guy under center who can let it rip and take ordinary and make it extraordinary, and those guys do.
Was Brock Osweiler a mistake?
My emotion, because I know him, I don't want, and you know me, Dan, I'm not much of a fence sitter. I like the guy, but I watched mechanics, and you look at the great players, Matt Ryan, the way he's playing. He told me a year ago at the Super Bowl, at this time last year, if I cut down my red zone interceptions, we got a chance to be here playing next year. And he did, and look at the result. Mm-hmm. But he worked ad nauseum in his mechanics. Brady does the same thing. Brock's long and overextended, and sometimes you can just see he's never going to be a 63% completion guy. He's just not. He's a big, strong guy who gets long, and we have never had a 6'8" guy win a championship. We just don't. Tall quarterbacks like that, when I say that big, we don't draft them, and they don't usually win. I would love him to succeed, but Dan, we've seen a body of work for a year with a supposed quarterback guru. They with a great defense. They upgraded their offense in the offseason, and at times you wonder if Brock could throw it in the ocean when he's standing on the beach. And unfortunately, when you're that, you can't take a guy who's a 54% completion guy and make him a 62. Now, you can take a 60 and make him a 62. Breeze will throw for 70% with the blindfold on. So will Ryan, so will Rodgers. Those guys are accurate. I personally, mistake, yes, and Dan, sometimes you just got to – I'm hoping that he competes and comes back and works this offseason and gives them something. But that first impression we got was game after game. And what I saw, I'm looking for not just wins or touchdown passes. Did they get better? Did he get better? You tell me one game or 3 quarters in a row or 4 quarters that you looked at him and said, that's $72 million worth. That's a Super Bowl quarterback. It did not happen. They have to draft a quarterback again this year and give Savage and another guy a chance to compete. Sometimes you just got to take the L, man, and say we spent money we shouldn't have spent.
Deshaun Watson, his resume, you lead with the 2 games against Alabama, back-to-back years.
Yep.
And there are still going to be people who aren't going to sign off on Deshaun Watson, whether it's his style or you know whatever it might be.
Right.
Would you sign off on Deshaun Watson as the number 1 quarterback?
I would now. I'm a Trubisky guy, but, Dan, I haven't seen enough body of work from Trubisky. He looks the part. When we look at Carson Wentz, looks the part. Big, strong guy who can rip it. But Trubisky, there's talk that he's not 6'3", he's 6'1.5".
But they didn't play in any important games.
That's my point. And so when I watch Watson, whenever we hear the word dual threat quarterback, or the phrase, what are we thinking, Dan? Oh, great runner. He couldn't throw up.
Yeah. It's like Vince Young.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But Watson, Dan, my favorite thing is when the temperature of a game goes up, guys like me, us mere mortals, when the temperature of the game goes up, we throw up in our mouth. When those guys like Watson... Just
for the record, you never threw up on the field, did you?
Ever.
In the huddle,
but I made people in the stands throw up. I can tell you that. And bettors and gamblers. Hell, my own kids. Dad, was that your throw? But boy, you know how catchers and backup quarterbacks make for great coaches.
That's true. And analysts.
That's exactly right. So, Dan, I sign off on him now because under the brightest lights and the biggest stage, he's taken what we call the greatest college coach and the greatest college coach's defenses and carved them up like he owned them. And he's done it. And my favorite thing about him was with this past one, he started off for the first quarter and a half and it looked like he was going to urinate down his leg. And then, bam, came back out in the last 3.5 quarters and loaded a team up and single-handed. We talk about defense wins championships. No, not in that game. While Clemson played well, a dude and a quarterback carried them and got them through, making every play necessary. I do sign off on him. Now, I don't put him in the, when we had Aikman and Luck and Elway, you knew, John, you know what I'm saying? We knew that John was going to be special. With Deshaun, I think he can with the proper putting the ball in his hand and believing in him, turning it over to him. But I don't look at him as, oh, my gosh, no-brainer. But I signed off. He's the best quarterback in this draft. And after his performance under pressure, if you don't think that guy has ice in his veins and you don't pass on him, what we do is we talk ourselves out of draft picks between now and April. They need to draft that guy. If it's not the first pick, it better not be the 5th pick. He can play.
He's Sean Salisbury. The new Sean Salisbury show debuts Super Bowl week on SB Nation Radio and ESPN Radio Houston host as well. It's great to see if you're watching on DirecTV, the audience channel 239 or the NBC Sports Network. Sean is going to throw footballs to McLovin during the look-in. McLovin, you got your gloves?
I do. Are you going to, take it easy on me, or are you going to really let it go?
Dude, I'm gonna. You will do. Matter of fact, is anybody in the stands ready to take McLovin's place? You'll be dead by the time I get done with you. If you guys are gonna make me in street clothes and having knee surgery 2 weeks ago throw, you better be, because I'm gonna let it rip, dude. You better be ready.
It's all about.
You might want to have contacts on because those.
It's all about content, McLovin. If you die, as long as it's on camera, that's all that we care about.
If you die, well, the key is I'm just going to come and work right there and be one of the Danettes.
Well, if you don't, Florio can sit in there.
He's not going to break my glasses again, is he?
Dude, I'm going to give you such nice touch.
Play of the day.
I'm going to teach you touch.
Play of the day is coming up next here on the Dan Patrick
Thanks, Dan.
Show. See you, bud.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.